From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
He's Georgia's oldest farmer.
I just love to farm and enjoy growing peanuts.
Hear from this farmer who just put in his 73rd peanut crop. Difficult financial times on the farm continue to spread to other aspects of the industry. We hear what it means for one tractor tire maker, as one country's possible export tax could be America's gain.
That would be one kind of welcome thing I think the U.S. farmer can lean on.
The latest right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when blood, sweat, and tears meet rain, wind, and sun. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The world's largest soybean exporter could soon be facing an increase in export taxes. The Brazilian government is proposing a plan that would raise taxes on various goods, including ag products. It's being put in place to fund infrastructure and housing projects. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. Michelle, Brazil's decision to do this could actually be a boost for U.S. ag.
That's right. The Brazilian government is proposing to tighten rules that would essentially raise export taxes for several agricultural industries. The move would raise about $5.5 billion in revenue per year for the government, but it could also stifle exports and growth, which would benefit the U.S. The proposal to close tax credit loopholes that benefit exporters of primary and semi-finished products, including grain and soy, biodiesel, and meat, could affect companies' finances, plus potentially reduce payments to soybean producers by 4%, according to the Brazilian Association of Vegetable Oil Industries. This could curb growth in Brazil.
These farmers are kind of at the cost of production. So if you're going to raise taxes in Brazil, you're going to slow down acreage growth, which honestly is probably the goal of the U.S. farmer at this point.
This is a major trend change after years of expanding acreage in Brazil.
What happens when that stops? And we haven't ever seen that stop. I mean, at least in the last 30 years. So that would be one kind of welcome thing I think the U.S. farmer can lean on.
The export tax could narrow the country's trade surplus as well. It would increase costs for exporters, making Brazil goods less competitive internationally and reducing export volume, which could be positive for the U.S., which has seen its export share dwindle to Brazil.
It's going to lower the price. It's going to prevent farmers from selling. And that might give a little bit of an advantage to the U.S. to be able to now compete with corn and soybean exports.
However, Martinson says the tax plan isn't a done deal.
It actually is going to go into and be impacting or in play starting immediately, but they have to vote on it and it has to pass through their Congress within 4 months or it'll be removed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Brazilian food exporter lobbies claim the rule is unconstitutional. If passed, the tax would be valid until December 31st, 2043, and is similar to the value-added tax Brazil imposed before 1996 on exports of non-industrialized products. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. We told you about layoffs last week at some John Deere operations there in Iowa, but there's also been talk that fellow ag equipment maker C&H Industrial could be laying off workers in Wisconsin. Now, the Wisconsin Examiner reporting in April the company could be making plans to lay off more than 25% of its workforce in Racine County. The office of Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin released a letter she had sent to the CEO of the company. In it, she said she was deeply disappointed by the decision to lay off over 200 workers at the Racine County plant and that there were threats of further layoffs in Racine, possibly reducing the workforce down to as low as 150 workers. Now, a state representative also saying there were rumors of significant layoffs, but that inquiries about the rumors have been rebuffed by C&H. Now, so far, the company has not filed any notices with the state about a workforce reduction. Meanwhile, Iowa is getting hit again by another round of ag-related layoffs. This time, it's the Bridgestone Firestone tire plant in Des Moines. The Des Moines Register says the plant makes most of the company's tractor tires. Bridgestone Americas confirming the layoffs to Farm Journal, saying it notified local United Steelworkers leadership in Des Moines that that it had made the difficult decision to reduce positions due to demand constraints in the ag tire sector. The newspaper reports the company told employees the layoffs will take effect early next month and could impact 118 of the plant's 900 workers. It also says the layoffs are the first at the plant since 1990. After a hot week last week for many folks in the South, is relief finally on the way this week? Meteorologist Martin Lorimore has a look ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're still seeing very warm temperatures over the next couple of days. Clinton, we'll be seeing those temps reaching back into the triple digits for a lot of the nation as we head into this work week. And you see a lot of these temperatures. Again, Phoenix 105, El Paso 99. Brownsville, 111. It's going to be a warm one still staying there. Getting into the overnight temperatures will calm down as we get into those 60s, stretching into much of the nation. Still some temperatures staying in the 70s and 80s, but we're just bouncing right back. It's going to be looking like another really warm day for our Tuesday. So just be ready for it. That heat dome isn't going anywhere. As we get into our extended forecast, you can see the rain kind of helping a lot of the center part of the country in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and parts of Kansas and Missouri. The cool down with the rainfall into that Tuesday and Wednesday. But as we get into that extended forecast, start seeing a lot more of that just dry air settling in with this heat dome. And this is actually going to be on the heat dome on the move over the next couple of days. We'll tell you more about that in your next forecast coming up in just a little bit. It's time to do some more planting. That's exactly what Robert Reese of Lansing, Michigan was doing last week. This time, putting in some sweet corn in the ground. I want to get some of that sweet corn. Definitely one of the better crops out there right now. I'll talk more in your forecast. Coming up.
The FDA is asking states to take action to discourage or stop the sale of raw milk to the public. The agency says their concern is the risk of exposure and possible transmission of H5N1 flu. In an open letter, the FDA urging states to issue more stern warnings or consider using regulatory powers to curb the sale of raw milk in areas where dairy cattle have tested positive. Now, raw milk can carry high levels of the virus because bird flu appears to infect cows through their udders. It's not known whether humans can get bird flu by drinking contaminated milk, but 3 dairy workers exposed to sick cows have been infected, as well as cats on those farms. Cattle recover, but grains ended last week in the red. We'll take a look at this week's markets coming up next. And later, Machinery Pete is tracking farm equipment trends, and there's a new one for combines that farmers may want to keep an eye on. That's ahead on Ag Day.
Introducing Unscripted with Ty Morgan and Clinton Griffiths. Real, raw, and entertaining. A new episode is available every Friday on Farm Journal's YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Another food production plant is slated to close. Ruiz Foods announcing it will retire its manufacturing facility in Tulare, California later this year. The plant opened in 2004 as an extension of another of the company's plants, and it says it was originally intended to be a short-term additional capacity option. But it says now that the facility is too small and would require a huge capital investment to keep it going. The plant is slated to close between the end of August and early September. Ruiz is known for its El Monterey brand of Mexican frozen food. It's reported the plant employs about 215 people. Corn futures handed back most of Thursday's gains on Friday, and soybeans and wheat didn't fare too well either. Michelle Rook lets us know if better news could be on the way this week in Markets Now.
Grains closing lower again on Friday. Darren Fry, Water Street Solutions, is back with analysis. So the pressure that we saw on Friday in the greens, Darren, was it mostly funds selling? It seems like the funds are now back selling just about every little rally.
Yeah, the funds have never gotten completely out of their short positions. I think they were selling on Friday. If you back up one more day, last week we saw tremendous buying on Thursday. The markets held these critical support levels and really rallied, but man, they pummeled it on Friday and took most of those gains away in markets like soybeans, not so much in corn, because corn had a decent recovery on the close to finish the week really about unchanged or up a couple cents, but beans really had a bad close. Meal came back, bean oil was lower, so it's kind of a mixed trade, and maybe we found a bottom last week. We'll see what follow through is this week on the wheat market.
Have we held support areas that we need to? Can we build on that going into the WASDE coming up here on Wednesday?
Well, we have held support. I had support in July corn, old crop corn at 440 to 445. And of course, that held on Thursday of last week. And then The soybeans, 1175 to 1180 in old crop. That tested it on Thursday and then retested on Friday with that crazy day. And so we have held. The question is, will we hold as we come into this WASDE that'll be on Wednesday, or will we have more selling ahead of it? So weather forecasts, crop conditions, all that's going to matter, but people will be a little bit tense here ahead of the WASDE to see what they do, how much cut, do they make any cuts in the ending stocks because they raise demand, or do we have a larger carry out than what people expect?
Greens, do you think that the funds are reestablishing their short positions there in all three of these grains?
Well, I don't know about wheat, but they're trying to in corn and beans, and we'll see. We'll get another COT report later today, but they really are pressing things again this week on the short side. So it kind of seems strange to me as we go into maybe what could be a more problematic weather pattern. A lot of guys are saying that. Maybe everybody's wrong that's saying that. But they seem to have no fear, and they continue to sell into this on every rally.
Thanks for joining us, Darren, for Water Street Solutions. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rourke on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Welcome back to Ag Day. We are looking still at a very warm next couple of days, but actually it's moving a little bit. We'll be seeing a bit of a heat wave actually making its way across parts of the Rust Belt, Great Lakes, and even into the more northerly portions of the Mississippi River Valley. So keep on the watch out as we get into that Father's Day weekend around that mid-June. It is going to be a warm one as we head into that extended forecast. You're seeing a lot of these temperatures well above average, but it's that heat dome that's on the move. I'll tell you more about that in just a little bit. But we're looking at a drought monitor. Again, a lot of the parts across parts of Kansas, New Mexico, and Texas still seeing that drought. There has been some minor improvements in parts of western Kansas. A lot of that winter wheat's being now pulled out of the ground. So luckily going to hopefully see some of those yields looking pretty good, though parts of New Mexico still very, very dry. Now actually places in Montana and Idaho starting to see a little bit of that drought conditions there. Hopefully some of the potato crops making it through this year, but the precipitation still staying mostly out of the area. You're seeing just a little bit, just about a tenth to about a half an inch of rain across some parts of Montana, Idaho, and then western Kansas seeing a little bit of that rainfall. Unfortunately, not a whole lot in toward parts of New Mexico, where again, the only part of the country sitting underneath that exceptional drought. Now, again, a lot of that rainfall moving its way toward parts of Florida, hopefully giving them a little bit of that rainfall. But here's a look at the jet stream. There's that heat dome, kind of faded away a little bit. It has lost a little bit of its kick, but as we get into toward Tuesday and Wednesday, it's going to be pushing itself back into the Rockies and into the southern plains. So this will stick around for that late part of the work week, but moving its way across the country as a low pressure out toward the Pacific Northwest kind of eggs it on into our next work week. This is after your Father's Day. Look at that large heat dome right there across the eastern part of the country. We'll be seeing temperatures well above average as we head into that extended forecast. So just be ready. The heat dome may be trying to give way a little bit right now, but it will be coming back with a vengeance for the eastern part of the nation. Greeley, Colorado, it's going to be a cool one, high 60 degrees. Got a couple thunderstorms there. Whitesboro, Oklahoma, high 80 degrees. A little bit of those thunderstorms there too. And Valdosta, Georgia, southern Georgia, very warm, high 98.
If you're looking for a used combine, Machinery Pete has some numbers that just might catch your eye. Next. And later, the innovations this Georgia farmer has seen are unbelievable. We'll hear from him as he plants his 73rd crop in the country. Winter wheat harvest is underway and combines are starting their trek northward. Machinery Pete has been looking at combine prices and found some interesting trends.
Well, the trend that our Machinery Pete auction sale price data has shown for a number of years now is that smaller class used combines hold their value much better than larger class used combines. And actually, even here the past year, as the used combine market has sort of recalibrated, this trend is even more pronounced. Now let's look at the John Deere S600 series made from 2012 to 2017. So one of the smaller models, the John Deere S660, Last year, the average auction price was $136,380. That only dropped 2% last year. Meanwhile, the larger models in the S600 series, the S670, for example, fell 23.9%. The S680, the average auction price dropped 20.6% last year. And the largest model, the S690, average auction price last year fell 20.3%. Now let's take a couple of examples, specific combines, red combines last week at auction. So last Tuesday, online dealer auction in Larchwood, Iowa, this 22 model Case H 9250, a big fella, 355 step hours on it, sold for $431,000. Now that's a big hard cash check, no doubt. But if we go back 6 months, just to last December, I actually saw 5 9250s sold at auction, and the average auction price was $478,700. Saw them as high as $520,000 down to $435,000. And again, last Tuesday, $431,000. Now that same day, last Tuesday, another online auction in Iowa, this one in Hornick, Iowa by Big Iron. A smaller Case H combine sold much stronger. This 20 model Case H 7250, 756 step hours on it, sold for $319,000. That's actually the 4th highest auction price ever on a 7250 combine. So again, a lot of buying heat on these good condition, smaller used combines.
All right, thanks, Pete. Up next, a peanut farmer in Georgia shares a little bit of history of his own. After more than 100 years of life lessons, he's seen it all. His story next. Georgia's oldest farmer just planted his 73rd peanut crop. His name is St. Elmo Harrison, and he's just 101 years old. The Georgia Peanut Commission caught up with him in the fall of 2022, and he had quite the story to tell about the changes he's witnessed in agriculture over the years.
This is St. Elmo Harrison. I live in Whigham, Georgia. On my farm, we grow pecans, peanuts, and cattle, and we rent some out for cotton. This year I planted 35 acres, and the yield was off this year due to dry weather and heat too. I had one failure of 2016. We had a real dry year and didn't even harvest any. We plowed them up and baled the hay for the cows, but didn't get any nuts at all. And even back when I was in high school, at my dad's, we grew peanuts, planted corn. That was with mules, planted corn, and about 4 rows of corn and a row of peanuts, and then we would gather the corn and put the hogs in on the peanuts and fatten them and kill them for the meat. I worked for one of my uncles on a Saturday, plowing mules, breaking ground for 50 cents a day. It didn't get much better after that. In 1941, I finished high school and had a cousin working in Bainman's at a restaurant, and he wanted to know if I wanted to work over there, and I went and worked about 3 months, $1, 12 hours a night, $1 a night. Didn't get much better back then. I decided farming would be better than that. The first crop I grew in this field right above here, I planted, I believe it was about 5 or 6 acres, and we had to use an 8-in Ford tractor and plowed them up, and then we went back and shook the dirt out and inverted them where they were dry. Then we put up what they call stack poles, put up a pole about 15 feet high and put cross pieces up off the ground. Yeah, I've been farming since 1951, and this is my 71st peanut crop. Even though the price is so high and the profits are so small, I just love to farm and enjoy growing peanuts. I like them raw, parched, or boiled anyway.
And our thanks to the Georgia Peanut Commission for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great week on Farm Country.